From the OU TV Broadcast Center in Los Angeles, California, this is Brief News Brief, a brief look at today's trending news topics. Proudly combating the thought police since 2016, here's your host, James Heaney.
I'm James Heaney, and this is your Brief News Briefing. On Sunday, ICE plans to start the arrests of potentially thousands of undocumented immigrants. Authorities are set to target about 2,000 migrant families across 10 major cities. They plan to sweep up immigrants who aren't even initial targets. So beware, the ICE raids begin this weekend. For weeks, the Trump administration has been blustering these threats, but thus far, they've been just threats. Will Sunday be the day? According to the New Times report, immigration agents have expressed apprehensions about the potential prospect of arresting children and babies. ICE agents feel fear for their own safety against possible retaliation. Within DHS, there's been disagreement as to what to do. Are we alive at a time of great atrocity? What's happening in America? ICE is potentially going to start to march and round up families starting this weekend. Undocumented parents could be separated from their children who are American citizens, and the government could essentially leave a bunch of kids orphans. While these families targeted for deportation have likely received final orders that they are to leave the country, they may not have been accused of any crimes besides disobeying that order. Just because one or more members of a family have deportation orders doesn't mean that they are hardened criminals. The hardened criminals that Trump often portrays them as being. In fact, Trump hasn't even made any distinctions between the difference between an undocumented immigrant and one who has a criminal record. Worse yet, if the family members are arrested together, they're going to be held in the same family detention centers, the same ones that everyone's going crazy over this week. They're already turning into a historic humanitarian crisis on American soil. This could be yet another threat from the Trump administration, and these raids, they might end up being postponed and never happen, or it could be the big one, an unprecedented rounding up of people of color in America. It's subpoena time again. A House panel voted today to subpoena 12 people with connections to President Trump. Now, this includes his son-in-law, Jared Kushner, and former Attorney General Jeff Sessions. This is all part of an ongoing investigation into whether Trump obstructed justice or abused his office. Otherwise, Trump lashed out at Democrats suggesting that they should focus on immigration issues instead. Now the Democrats have asked to see 12 people who have already spent hours with Robert Mueller and spent a fortune on lawyers in doing so. How many bites at the apple do they get before working on border loopholes and asylum? Mr. Trump is also pretty mad that the infamous Mr. Robert Mueller will be publicly testifying before Congress next Wednesday. Mark your calendars, it's must-see TV. Representative Douglas A. Collins, the ranking Republican on the Judiciary Committee, accused Jerry Nadler of being on a subpoena binge. The House panel also voted Thursday to subpoena documents related to the Trump administration's zero-tolerance policy on migrants entering the country illegally, which led to the separation of thousands of children from their parents. The new subpoena quest comes amid an intensified outcry over the treatment of children in the migrant detention centers. Trump continues to cry presidential harassment at the probes and has largely refused to comply with their requests and has urged associates to ignore subpoenas. New Orleans is left underwater as the city races to prepare for an approaching storm. On Wednesday morning, severe thunderstorms prompted tornado warnings and inundated downtown New Orleans. Travel was disrupted and City Hall was closed. The flooding occurred as a brewing tropical storm Barry gathered strength over the Gulf of Mexico. It's hurricane season, America! Are you ready for the 2019 global warming carnage? New Orleans city officials and those associated with the National Weather Service urged residents to just stay off the road and seek higher ground if they encounter flooding. Bourbon Street is already underwater, and heavy rain continues to fall. Between 6 a.m. and 9 a.m. local time, about 5.5 inches fell in downtown New Orleans. Crazy. The tropical threat has the potential to unleash a deluge of more than 2 feet of rain to the Gulf states. It's expected to last through the weekend. Tropical Storm Barry is expected to be Hurricane Barry by the time it makes landfall in southwestern Louisiana. Offshore oil operators in the Gulf of Mexico have already evacuated platforms and rigs. These are mandatory evacuations being ordered. The Mississippi River could crest at 20 feet, which could break the levees in New Orleans. At least 200 floodgates around New Orleans were expected to be closed by Friday. More than 20,000 customers around New Orleans don't have power as of 10 a.m. today, their local time. We at Brief News Brief are hoping and praying for the safety of the people of New Orleans.